I am over the moon excited about this conversation that we are getting ready to have. I have got a very, very special goddess here with me today. Her name is MaAra Divine, and she is a galactic shaman. She is a healer. She is a change maker. She's a mover and a shaker. She's a sacred ceremonialist, a metaphysical guide, a light language channel, and a quantum dance teacher. So she is moving and shaking and doing so many incredible things on the planet. She's also an author, and so excited to hear more about your book at the end of this call. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be part of the summit.
Yeah, it is such an honor to meet you. We had a very synchronistic kind of like the stars were aligned and we met and connected straight away. And it was just an instant connection of, birds of a feather fly together. And so it's so great to have you part of this leadership summit because I know you're doing some incredible things to awaken consciousness and I can see and feel that you're a powerful leader and have so much to share. So thank you, thank you, thank you for saying yes. It's completely aligned. And my first question for you today is what does leadership mean to you?
It's a beautiful question. And if I were to contemplate about what leadership means for me, I always go back to the heart. And I realize that the world out there has a lot of leaders, a lot, leaders in governments, leaders in workplaces that people report to. There's a lot of authority, but a lot of that authority operates from the mind, where it's dictated often enough by the ego, by accomplishments and successes, and these very linear ways of perceiving leadership. And for me, leadership is really the quantum leadership, which is through the heart. If each of these leaders were actually connected to themselves and their heart, their feelings, their emotions, then they would have empathy, they would have sympathy to the collective, the people they interact with in every moment, in every relationship, no matter what rank they are. And so that type of leadership is, for me, a leadership that I want to see in the future. And hopefully we're going to get there. That's what I see the ascendant beings, the more advanced civilizations galactically have as I interact with them, different councils such as Andromedan councils, which have very high vibration. And when they make decisions and when they gather together, everything matters because they know the decision they're going to make is going to impact everyone together. So there's no separation. They see that each person, each being in the galaxy is interconnected to them. And therefore, when they operate from that unified field from the heart, they know that every single thing is impacting the other. And so, therefore, that type of leadership is cohesive, it's coherent, it's harmonious, it's for the greater good of all.
Wonderful. I love that so much. The quantum heart-led leader. And I
Mhm.
just see that, like I could visualize this quantum field of leadership in our world. And wow, that's an amazing vision. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. And do you consider yourself a leader?
I feel like I've been on a journey of stepping into leadership and I'm still learning how to. Uh, it's something that I think we cultivate. It's not necessarily always something we're born with, but there are certain traits of leaderships that I feel I'm definitely stepping into. And one of them, for instance, is to have the courage to speak up my truth. So, no matter which collective I'm interacting with, whether it's, more kind of, I would say, 3D reality, where it's a corporate world and, things might not be going the way they need to and being aligned, I might not necessarily receive what I want, and there might be very bureaucratic, red tape you have to go through. But one thing for sure, I show up the same way no matter who I interact with. And that authenticity, that connection that I always show up with, people feel it. And at the end of the day, I think we're people connectors. No matter what we do, it's all about the people. And at the end of the day, people just remember not what necessarily you did, but how you made them feel. And so for me, if I leave that conversation, that interaction with making them feel appreciated, empowered, changed, and better off than when they started the conversation, that's the most important trait for me as a leader. So I do feel I'm a leader now because I'm dancing in different worlds, in more kind of, I would say, spiritual world where I'm opening people's perspective to the world out there through experiences, through workshops, through sound healing, through Kundalini activation, through all these things. Now I've been going on podcasts for the last year and a half, 2 years, and now I have my own podcast that's now on, I think, 45th episode. So I think as we step on stage, we we claim that ownership of our voice, and by default we become leaders because others listen and they get transformed in one way or another.
Beautiful. I love that. I love the point that you made about how we make other people feel. That really rang true for me. And I just went, oh, definitely. Because you got these leaders where they're really powerful and they're really charismatic and they're, all they tick all the boxes of being a powerful leader. But then they do or say something and you walk away and it's just like, ugh, no, that's not it. And then it doesn't matter all that stuff, all that charisma, all that. It's just like, I just don't respect you as a leader anymore, right?
Yeah.
But
And we
when
need
it's
to
someone
respect.
that's even like a little bit quiet, a little bit meek, maybe humble, but yet they make you feel so good. You remember that person, and that's the person that you want to, well, you just do respect as a leader. That is a really, really good point, and that is something that no one else has said yet. I really like, woo, I love that. Thank you.
I would add to
So
that
true.
too. What comes for me, just to kind of add to that, is this sense of safety. I
Yeah.
think many of us kind of running around and we're trying to find safety in these different experiences we add. And I know when I come and facilitate a workshop, for instance, the key thing I always focus on is how to create a sacred space, how to have others come in, let's say for the first time, and feel safe to open up, feel safe to be themselves, feel safe to go deep into their processes. And so, creation of that safety is a leadership skill because you have to be so multidimensionally aware of all the things, not just in the physical space, but energetic space, and all these layers that regular, I would say, leaders out in the world, they're not really being taught. They really focused on get stuff done. And that's kind of the masculine way. I think for me, I'm coming back to the feminine, to how do we balance getting stuff done with being, in the space with co-creating together with others. And I think if I were to go to ancient times, the women always were the leaders. They knew how to create that nurturing environment. They knew how to take care of all. And so I think we need to go back and start bringing back those really valuable assets from those times. And I think a lot of the females that probably listening to this, they know what I'm talking about. It is our time to reclaim leadership. I feel that on the soul
Well, you're
level.
answering my
Yeah.
next question, which is,
Yeah.
what is what does the awaken the new feminine paradigm mean to
Yeah.
you?
So
That is
that's
it, isn't
that
it?
is that. And the female, she so the female sometimes tends to be very passive, or what I'm seeing on the other hand, very alpha-like, because this world has been so rough on the female, and there's a lot of alpha females running around trying to be like man. And that's not for me the leadership style that I admire. What I admire is a female who is able to balance those two facets. She is, you know, getting things done. She's able to create things. She's a leader that others look up towards, but she does have that nurturing aspect of her. She's bringing the femininity, she's bringing that divine mother. And we need divine mother right now. Because the consciousness of divine father and divine mother has been playing through this creation. And I think it's time where it balances out. There is a beautiful Hopi prophecy. It's about the ascension process, and they talk about this bird where one wing of the masculine is right here, it's like overreaching, and the other wing is clipped. That's the feminine. So the feminine is slowly like a phoenix rising from the ashes right now. It's opening up its wing. And now we need to also orient the masculine how to not dominate so much and repress us and come down to this equal level. And only when the two wings are in this horizontal equal level can the bird soar, can humanity ascend and awaken and fly further. So I think we're learning right now how to do that, how to rebalance. And there's, a lot of trauma and things that we've experienced on the feminine side. So we have to do the work. We have to clear the traumas. We have to release all that ancestral things that we carry in our field, and come into this place of sovereignty. And come into this place of the goddess. I call it the place of the goddess because the goddess, she knows she's a goddess. And operating from that place, everything comes her way. She is the abundance itself, and she can manifest and create and take care of everyone. It's a very different way of thinking and being than the way we used to. And I have to say,
Absolutely.
in my own journey, I had to learn that because I was very go, go, go areas, and running and doing things the masculine way. And when my spiritual journey opened up, I started realizing, and the body forced me to realize that as well, with lower back problems, with sciatic on the and on the right leg. And it was all these indicators in the body that were like, look, you are disbalanced on the right side. Slow down. And through slowing down and surrendering and just being present to the moment, I started understanding. I was like, oh wow, like I've been missing this other side, the left side of the body, that's trying to catch up here. How do we come from that place? Um, so I feel the feminine is unclipping its wings and it's coming into its beautiful flight. But I think our role is also to help the masculine and not forget that the masculine is a very important part of this equation.
Absolutely. And I've been with my husband since 1998. So 26 years, long time. And I've got two
Mhm.
boys. And so the boys are really important. And, it's not that we're trying to rise up over them. We just want equality. And I have witnessed exactly what you're talking about in my relationship, where, there are moments where my husband's completely in honoring and respect and dignity for the divine feminine within me. And then there's other moments where it is something else, and it's ebbs and it flows, and that consciousness, is awakening. And at the same time, we're having to hold this sacred space for the emergence of it because it's all new and we're all trying to figure out exactly how to do this new dance, right? I mean, this is why I've created this summit. And I love that Hopi prophecy, by the way. So powerful and potent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, this is a great segue to talk about what is the old paradigm. And I mean, many of us know, but I just love to hear people's answer.
What's the old paradigm?
Yeah.
As we're recording this, we here where I am in New Jersey, we're about to step into the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. And Virgo is all about order, in divine order. And I feel we've been out of divine order. The old paradigm is not chaotic per se, but very disconnected from the divine order. It's just the old paradigm systems. I have a boy too. They're not supportive of where we merge into. These systems served, you know, for time being. They were more in for enslavement type of society. So I'm thinking like educational system where boys go and they kind of have to memorize things. They don't have breaks during school day much. They sit in at their desks. They suppressed, from being able to express themselves, being able to be boys, to be able to connect to nature. And so those systems were just built to maybe execute and have like these robots do whatever they need to at the workplace. Ultimately, all these systems, including the educational system, and not letting us be our full soul expression that we meant to be. And the old then these old paradigms, as I think the next question, like they're not gonna last because the frequency right now of Earth is changing. We are stepping into new timeline. We ascending. Gaia, Mother Earth is ascending too. That whole period perhaps what was needed to reflect and understand what's not serving us. And usually during full moons, we release it into the fire. So I'm definitely releasing these old ways, old patterns, old beliefs of what we've been told we allowed, not allowed to do, who we are, and including, the traumas of everything the feminine collective went through, of all the suppression, and lots of suppression still going on. But I feel it starts with us. It starts with us releasing that and saying no more. And I'm at the place where I am quantum master creator. I'm creating my reality, and my canvas is blank. What is it that I'm invited in? And if each one of us chooses that reality, then we build from quantum perspective what's called standing wave. We build in a wave that is ushering this collective timeline together of what many of us call new earth timeline, where there's unity and beauty and harmonization, where we have time to for ourselves, where we have time to take care of our bodies. The water is clean, the food is clean, and not in the paradigm where everything is poisoning you. So you're trying to make it, and it's more in the survival versus thriving type of experience. And I'm ready to thrive.
Absolutely. I love that you brought the quantum meaning into like real life practical reality stuff like our children and the school system. And, I've got a whole big story about that, but I'll just share a little tiny bit of it. We were living in Sweden for 4 years, and I had my son in this school, and I look back on it now, and it was very old paradigm. You are to sit at your desk and behave and da 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 da. Well, my kids are my kids are new paradigm children. And so they're like they need to move, they need to, and so they tried to label him and send us to this counselor and all this stuff. And like the counselor just laughed. He goes, go back to New Zealand. Like this is like, he was just totally on our side and like We went through all this whole thing where they were trying to label him with ADD and put him on medication because they want everyone to behave and fall into this order. And I know he doesn't have it. In the counselor, the psychologist, he's like, he doesn't have ADD. He just needs to run and like change schools. And I was like, you know what? I think I will. So I changed him to a different school, totally different reality. The school was completely new paradigm without saying it was new paradigm, but they gave breaks to the children to run, to play, to get their energy out. They had an amazing reward system that, they ruled by the carrot, not the stick. So there wasn't this punishment and top down energy. It was beautiful. It was a total new paradigm, new earth, completely different experience. My son's world was different. My world was different. It was such a huge, dramatic difference. And so I just, remembered that whole thing of what I went through and being a new paradigm, leader and mom. It didn't take me long to figure out, like, no, I'm not going to medicate my child so that he falls into your paradigm. I'm going to allow my child to be who he is. And when you get a whole new paradigm school that has that same alignment, like it really is a difference between that old paradigm, hell, and new paradigm, heaven on earth. So thank you for bringing it to like the reality of living on this planet. Because we can get
Yeah.
into the whole quantum symbolic meaning of it, but then when we bring it down to just like day-to-day life, I think it's really important to start seeing that. So thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to go on a tangent there, but it really like triggered some stuff in me about that experience and what's happening out to a lot of children in that old paradigm way. Schools are being ran with that old paradigm, and it's not good for our kids.
No,
Ooh,
and I'm glad you found that type of school because we in the best school district there is in New Jersey, and there we dealing with exactly the similar situation.
that
Yeah,
top down with the kids, and it's really not healthy. It's toxic.
yeah, yeah, and and all we can do is continue advocating, even if we can yet have the heaven we create in heaven, or we do it after school. We introduce these things to our children, on the weekends. Like I take him to festivals. This past weekend, I took him to Heart of Oneness Expo, and he had his own first time aura photography done, and he was so excited. And we put some quantum gear on him, and then he saw the transformation from one color to another. So we make it real for him. And then I bought him the book Alchemist, and he's been reading it right now and been asking him about that. So if we don't have that in the old system, we have to introduce it as parents to our children because we created this new paradigm real time, even if the system can provide it for us.
Yeah, and I do believe that we can offset things, because it's sometimes the situation where we can't take them out of one school and put them into another school. And maybe that other school doesn't even exist,
You there?
right? I was really, really blessed and fortunate that I found that other school. But when we can't, I like what you're saying is we find that time to offset. Oh, you froze. Are you there?
I am. You froze.
Oh, I froze. I can edit that. It's okay.
Oh,
All right.
good.
So let's see. My next question. I loved that tangent, by the way. That was good. That was really important for all the moms out there that are listening. You know,
Yes,
we have to be the advocate for our children.
absolutely.
Um, when you think of power, what comes up for you? What does power mean to you?
That's a very good question. So, power is a creation and destruction force. So it's something actually that I had to step into fully on my journey. And I'll explain it through, I guess, the shamanic power animal way. because that was an interesting journey for me. In shamanism, we talk about how we all have a power animal, and uh, and sometimes the first animal shows up, and then another one might come in, depending on where you are on your journey of exploring yourself, but also stepping into your power. And I think my first one was an eagle. So it was this beautiful bird that, allows you to see the perspective and fly high and really kind of just be out there and open your perspective on the horizons, which was magnificent. And then after a few years, I started doing these other journeys, and an owl showed up. And an owl is a different type of bird. It's a bird that kind of crosses between different dimensions. It comes back and forth. It's more comfortable in the darkness, which, the eagle wouldn't necessarily fly. But the owl knows kind of like how to cross through different thresholds and kind of maybe do more of, from shamanic perspective, more healings and deal more with the darkness, and be comfortable in the darkness. So that was really an interesting introduction, because I became a soul quantum dance teacher, which is type of modality where you have people be blindfolded and do ecstatic dance, and teaching them how to disconnect from sight and go within and just really explore the darkness and the void. And actually, in the darkness, in the womb of creation, that's where all amazing treasures are. So and so I already was, on the really powerful journey of becoming this shaman, this healer, and I thought I got it all. Like, everyone knew me as a medicine woman. I had these retreats and plant medicines, and working with the white owl. But then it was an interesting moment where something was still not fully balanced. And there was actually a woman from Australia who I work with, and she pointed it out. She's like, "You actually ready for your next level. You have to step into your phoenix." And I was like, "What is a phoenix?" She's like, "Well, you understand, the phoenix is as much a creator of worlds as destroyer worlds." And so she did a session with me where I had to embrace all of that energy of the phoenix, but also fully step and embody the darkness of the responsibility. Where when you have so much power that you can create and destroy, that is a lot to take on and embody. But when you do, as full integrated soul, then you fully step into that unified consciousness, into the sovereignty and empowerment of who you are. So that process was really powerful and important for me, because I realized, oh wow, I was just playing on this like light side, so to speak, and I wasn't fully embracing the darkness as I should have.
Oh, you just froze again. Oh, I can't hear you at all. Can you still hear me? Huh. Oh, you're gone. Oh, are you there? You went into complete darkness. You were gone.
I called in the darkness.
You called in the darkness. You were just like gone.
I took us to the void.
Yeah, it was you left off where you were going into the darkness.
Going into the void, we're going into the darkness. In the void and the darkness, that's where all the treasures are. So to be able to really embody the darkness and be okay with all the shadows of self, and the light and the dark, then you fully can be that powerful integrated being in this moment in time, but also across space and time. And now that I'm kind of been working through this energy and I'm fully embodying it and I'm really in the phoenix, I can see that it was a process. It was a gradual process. I probably wasn't ready to jump into it right away, but I am now. And with that, like, I take full on responsibility for my creation, knowing also that somewhere I might be destroying things as well, and that's okay. So whatever comes up, I'm fully aware and conscious of it. And yeah, like I think Einstein or someone said, with great power comes great responsibility. And that also came with, like, when they were developing the nuclear weapons, and they become the destroyer of worlds as much as creators of worlds. And so for me, it's, I guess, that multidimensional also perspective of who we are and how incredible we are. And then we are very powerful beings, that we can create our reality, we can manifest what we want, and it's okay to claim it. It's okay to own it and say, this is the reality I want, and this is what I don't want, and I'm a powerful being. So, and often I feel that power in, like, the solar plexus. I feel through the solar plexus. This is kind of our power chakra. We really get to speak it out loud, and the word really matters. And the Bible is saying that God created the world with, abracadabra, so to speak, with the word. When you say something, you invoke it, you say it out loud, and it usually goes through the solar plexus, through the portal of the belly. So yeah, I guess it's like a long way to explain power, but the journey of being that powerful being is something that I don't take for granted.
I love that. I love that so much. I call it phoenixing. And phoenixing is different
Phoenixing.
than transformation because transformation is going from, having this change of form, but phoenixing, it really does feel like you are dying, like you're being burned to death, and that there's, not going to be any hope. And it's a very dark, bleak place, but there is a resurrection and there is a rising up, and then you rise up even brighter, even stronger, and with more wisdom. And I include the Phoenix in my Wounds to Wisdom Oracle deck, which is just getting ready to go to print. I'm so excited, but I love the Phoenix. And I think that is the main connection between you and I is the
I think
Phoenix.
so, because I have my Phoenix all over my book that I'm about to publish, of
Yeah,
course, and I have
totally.
a whole
It's a
chapter
very, the
there on the
Phoenix is a
Phoenix.
very, very sacred
Mhm.
sacred process that people go through and they don't realize that that's what's happening. So it needs to be coming through all of us to show us that even if you feel like you're completely dying, it's okay. You're just phoenixing. You're gonna be
Just
okay.
Right. And the resurrection frequency is really interesting that you mentioning that, because I actually have, like, codes in the book, and one of them is resurrection. I
Ah,
feel that also comes from the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. That was actually something we practice. We were comfortable in going into the darkness and resurrecting. And actually, when we think of, December 25th, we always think about, Christmas and things like that associated to Jesus. But really, during those times, we on the mystery schools had a lot of practices of going into caves and being in the darkness and then coming into the light and creating these, like, mini deaths, so to speak, on purpose.
yeah.
So that we get comfortable with dying, we get comfortable with the process of letting go and dissolving altogether, and unifying with the cosmos and coming back, and not being so attached to these bodies, not being so attached to this reality. That gives such perspective, because everything is on the other side of fear. Everything is on the other side of dying. And when you're able to release that, then you really can phoenix, and you can really step into self-love, into self-power, all of that.
I love that you've got resurrection in there. I've got death of ego, which is, part of it. Yeah, I've gone through my ego death this last year and it was quite a process, but you do come out with so much more compassion, so much more empathy, so much more love and, in really, that touchstone of being a heart-led leader. It is a big responsibility and it's a powerful one. And I love that answer. I love what you said about power. Fantastic. That was really fun. Phoenixing.
Phoenixing.
We laugh and we talk about it, but when you're going through it, it's not pleasant. But you know what I heard is that and I put this in my oracle deck, that when the caterpillar turns into the butterfly, like its body actually melts. That must be a
Mm,
really painful process to go through, but it has to go through that. It's going through a complete metamorphosis, a change of state from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And when we're phoenixing and when we're going through our metamorphosis, it is painful. So if you're listening to this right now and you're hearing us laugh, just know that when we were going through it, it was hard. It's not easy. But coming together like this in sacred sisterhood and listening to people talk about it, it brings more awareness to it, more consciousness to it. And you go, oh, that's what I'm going through. Okay, everything's going to be all right. And it will
yeah.
be.
Yeah. And it's okay to Phoenix many times. Like, I feel my whole life has been constant process of Phoenixing, and that's the part of growth. And our soul is here to constantly emerge into the next version of itself. And unless you want to stay in the kindergarten, that's okay. But if we came here to learn certain lessons and quickly move through to kind of, it's not always like a linear progression, it's multidimensional progression. But if you want to have a progression growth, you have to be comfortable in the fact that you're going to be constantly going through metamorphosis one way or another. It might be not as painful, but there might be moments where, you might have a few days where you have to process things, and it does feel like midlife crisis. And I have to say, a couple of days ago, I was feeling that, and I'm okay today. So, and that's the phoenixing process that I think we're all going through,
I
personally
love
and
that.
collectively.
Thank you so much for sharing that we can Phoenix many times. I have Phoenix so many times in my life. And when we talk about this and people can hear it and hear the stories, because we're not taught this stuff in school, you know, so it just brings consciousness to it and awareness to it. So thank you so much. That was a powerful conversation. So, who are your favorite leaders that really light you up from the inside out and inspire you?
Wow. That's a hard one. Um, I wasn't ready for this question, so I'll have to think of it. I think for me, I think it's people who specifically like, might disagree with, but people who really just doing their thing. And on the female side, I would say like someone I just had on my podcast, Debbie Solaris. She's a galactic historian and she's been on Gaia TV. She's been everywhere and just in very authentic, beautiful way sharing the galactic history. And not everyone understands. Some people think she's crazy, maybe, but she's someone I've watched for many years and finally was able to meet in person this December. And we were on Galactic Cruise together. And even though she doesn't do Akashic readings anymore, she was just so sweet to offer to do it for me after the cruise, and so sweet and humble to come to my podcast, which is small compared to big platforms she goes on. And I think I bring her up because it's like someone who in some ways, I see her as a leader just because of the field that we all in as a feminine, but someone you can like, you feel like she's your friend, she's your sister, no matter what. And to be able to humble yourself, and whether you became a celebrity of sorts and everyone looks up for you, for me is really precious. So I think she's the only one who comes up for me right now, just because I haven't thought of it like as closely. And I don't really like big fan of people in general in that way. Like I just don't follow one person. I like to just observe. And but Debbie's just really touched my heart. And I've been just editing her podcast with me, and I was like, wow, she's just such a sweet, beautiful person and a leader. in this whole new earth movement.
I love that answer. And I love that you didn't prepare for this, that you're just channeling what's coming through.
Mhm.
And I love your answer because to me, what I get from that is that you really admire when a leader is humble and personable and kind. And me
Yeah.
too. It's so true. Like if when someone has too much kind of, they think they're better when they rise up over people. I just immediately lose respect. And it sounds like she's a very sweet, humble, kind human. And that's my next question is what characteristics do you admire in leadership,
Mhm.
in leaders?
Yeah, we just said that, like
Yeah,
the
I know. Can you
humbleness,
add to it maybe a little
sweetness.
bit?
Sure, the sweetness, the approachability. I think that's important. So, we still like human, right? So no matter what, so being approachable, inspiring. So and that's what we can do for each other. We inspire, right? To be even better, to be curious. Yeah, nurture someone who always, yeah, kind of what we talked about since the beginning, always thinks about everyone in some ways and another, the collective. So someone who's just, yeah, it's not just about them, it's really about the greater good. And everything they do comes from that place of how they can spread their message or how they can help someone and how they show up. So in the world, it really matters. And yeah, and just being vulnerable. I think that's also, I feel, a beautiful quality because not everyone can be vulnerable with you. And so, someone who, no matter what leadership position they hold, if they can just drop to that vulnerability with you and just be authentic, really, authenticity is the key. Because you can feel it. You can feel when someone is just, in the ego. We're talking about ego death. And, controlled by their own beliefs and limitations versus when the conversation flows, when the person shows up in the flowy way and their enthusiasm, everyone can feel it. Like they bring this level of excitement to what they do, and it's just contagious in some ways. And that's me admirable quality.
I love that. I love that because again, that is the old paradigm and the new paradigm. The old paradigm, is that kind of strong, forceful energy. And then the new paradigm is that, vulnerability and the softness, the sweetness. Um, and yeah, gosh, I had my moments of, I'm still learning how to step into my leadership as well. As we navigate through this new paradigm, we're all figuring it out. This is why I put the summit together, is
Yeah.
because we're still learning. And I remember doing this Tony Robbins leadership training, years ago. And we had this group and I just like stepped up because I can be quite a forceful, I'm a leader, So I was just like, okay, nobody was rising up. And so I just kind of like stepped in. Nobody asked me to, but it needed to be done. So I just like stepped in and started like leading everyone. But I still wasn't completely connected and aligned with my sacred divine feminine. And I look back on that now after I've had my ego death. And if I had that balance of the real masculine and the sacred divine feminine, it would have been such a much better experience for myself and for everyone else. I'm not making myself wrong, but it was a learning curve. Like it really is the balance of the two. So thank you so much. That's such a good answer. I love that so much. And so let me see, what's my next question? Top leader. Oh, what is your vision of the future of leadership? And
Ah.
I know you did answer that, but maybe you could just kind of add to
Yeah.
it.
I'll add to it. So yeah, one of my chapters in my book is called Quantum Leadership. That's how I call it.
Oh,
Quantum leadership
wow.
is what I feel. Well, it's not even a chapter, it's a sub chapter. If I had more space, I would write a whole chapter. Maybe it's going to be its own book, in some ways or another, because there's a lot we can learn from like spiritual, I feel, foundations to how we can bring it into, the world out there. And I think there's a book on quantum leadership, but yeah, the principles of quantum leadership is, I'm actually going to read it to you, is ability to hold a field of coherence so powerful that it influences not just individuals, but entire communities and movements. It is leadership that transcends hierarchy, operating instead through resonance, frequency, and alignment with higher order intelligence. It is about applying quantum principles not just to personal manifestation, but how we lead business, social systems, and even global consciousness shifts. A quantum leader is someone who shapes reality not through force, but through energetic coherence, moves beyond personal manifestation into collective impact, and sees beyond linear strategies and accesses higher dimensional intelligence, and understands that leadership is not about control, but about holding the field for transformation. So, yeah, that for me, the future is where the world is changing, and every corporation has this type of leader where they are balanced in feminine and masculine, where they are caring about the community, where everything is done from not narcissistic place, but of place of empathy and sympathy and co-creation with others. Yeah, I think it would be really beautiful if, when they put groups together, they do some sort of human design reading on them, Akashic reading, whatever you want to call. But there's like a way, kind of like in the Galactic Federation or the councils that I was mentioning, where, there's some sort of beautiful harmony that is co-created together. And when it's harmonious, beautiful things can happen. Um, then the whole environment will be harmonious. The world will be a harmonious place. I mean, we everyone's taken care of. So and I see that also for like the future cities. You know, when I tap into different ships, it's just so beautiful. You show up on these biospheres. Every experience there is just like your body feels good. The technology is supportive. So everyone talks about AI. For me, AI is actually part of this too, of this intelligence, because the AI that's in these advanced civilizations is the one that's like running a lot of the background, processes, but it's very interconnected um, into the well-being of the society. So it's its own intelligence, but it's respected as well and has its own name. So it's just interesting. It's kind of like everyone thinks about doomsday for AI, but there's different ways we can co-create with AI as well, and depends for what, like conscious AI. So yeah, so that's kind of where I see the future. It's a quantum leadership future.
I love what you just said about AI too, because, I've been thinking a lot about that as well. We're all still figuring this out and how to integrate it. But to me, it's just like it's cosmic consciousness. It's like the collective consciousness of all of our thought forms, almost like an Akashic record of its own kind of. It's almost like an Akashic record, but quite literally the culmination of all the consciousness that has ever been. So it's actually quite reverent in a way. Yes, I love that you brought this kind of different way of seeing it where we're not demonizing it or being afraid of it, but actually understanding it and embracing it. Because would we really demonize and be afraid of our collective consciousness? It gets a different way of seeing it, doesn't it? I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, my next question is a really big one, and it's fun. If you were made leader of the world, what would you do? Like, what are the first things you would do as leader?
Wow, it is a big one. I think the first thing I would start addressing the free energy, because there's so many devices. We work with a lot of quantum technology now, but I know there's so many other systems and technologies available that's kind of been suppressed. And if I was a leader and I could find a way to produce free energy for the world, I think a lot of the problems we have today will be very different. Um, and I think we're ready for that leap. And so that would be the first thing, like really address the energy problem. And with that, start, cleaning the pollution, the oceans. I think Mother Earth needs, a lot of work right now. And I think there's some work that's been done, but again, we kind of been limited. So taking care of this planet is important, because even though we vibrated on a higher frequency with her, we still, have fish in the ocean that is dying, and the pollution is a real thing. So we need to catch up with, we actually behind on cleanup process. But at the same token, the technology is moving really fast right now. We're in this like singularity. So if, we employ technology to do the cleanup and take care of the earth, I think that would be a big focus. Uh, and those will be kind of like the key first strategies. And yeah, and then just think a lot of I think my third thing would be, of course, focusing on the children. I think it would be, what you and I just talked about. It's my biggest passion, create educational systems that are much more supportive of these children and give them a break. Like Finland is a good example. They only have, I think, 20 hours of schooling a week, and those children are geniuses. So obviously something is working there. So implement a system that is much more earth-based and supportive of these children, and not try to force them into boxes. The children are the future. They're here. A lot of these children that volunteer to be here right now, they actually, these rainbow children, they here to change the world. They're here to build new systems, and we need to support them, support their expression. They're so ahead of us. So I'm definitely very passionate about helping the children, and I think it's time for us to start building systems where they're able to fully express themselves and in the way they need to.
Well, if you were running for some sort of leadership position, I would vote for you.
Thank you.
I'm like, check, check, check. Yes, I agree. Everything you're saying. And do you have any last and final pearls of wisdom to offer?
Yeah, I think for me, when I think about where we headed, um, and where we are right now, I've been connecting a lot with the Andromedan Council, and their key message to me has been to stay centered, stay anchored and grounded in your experience right now. Even though there's chaos that's going around you, even though the leaders of the world might be, in fight with each other, or there are wars going on, don't get polarized. Don't get, you know, sucked into these tick for tack type of situations, and get way too passionate with where the ego's flaring up, but really try to stay in unified place and neutral place. And so focus on you, focus on your own creations, focus on your immediate surrounding. Where can you be a leader? Where can you show up for others? Where can you create workshops or women circles or support groups if they don't exist? How those can be like very local based small things that will help those around you, and that's all you need to do. So sometimes we want to like jump and be these big leaders, but it really starts at the grassroots. I think it starts in our local communities to do something very different, not go to the protest, but actually create a women's circle and, just create space for women to speak up and just be themselves. And, you know, I think that matters more than anything else. So that's what I would leave you with. Yeah, just leadership is something that we practice, and just think of ways you can practice that from your heart.
Beautiful. I love that. And so you've got a book that you have written, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that. And you've also got a free gift for everyone. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Sure. Yeah, my book is called Manifesting Quantum Creation, and you'll love the subtitle because I've still been playing with it, but it's Awaken the Phoenix Within. Is
Oh, I love that. I don't know if you know, I had a business called Awaken the Priestess Within. I did
Oh,
a
no.
summit called Awaken the Goddess Within. I have another training, Awaken the Oracle Within, and now it's Awaken the Divine. So I'm all about awakening within. So yes, I love that.
You're right. And there's the part about, becoming manifesto of your reality and reclaiming your cosmic lineages. So there's a lot in the book. I think I'm weaving in kind of spirituality and science and quantum principles because I feel it's important to kind of go to quantum physics, to go to sacred geometry, and kind of see how we can understand the nature of reality. And so, kind of sharing my journey, sharing the Phoenix journey, sharing a lot of client work I've been doing. So I talk about the void, I talk about the galactic history. It's kind of my understanding of my story, but also like the different star seed qualities and star seeds that are out there. Because for me, feel like we need to reclaim and remember who we are and really get the grander picture of who we are. And some people ask me, like, does that matter? Like, do I need to remember? Not necessarily, but it's nice to have a context that you've had other lifetimes and beyond Earth, you had lifetimes also in the galaxy, and you brought some of these qualities with you. Um, and I talk a lot about Kundalini activation and kind of activating the energy within us, light body. So how can we really step into like you were asking about power, but like the wholeness of everything that we are? And then how can we manifest or create this reality we want? So I share a method I call quantum creation method, where there's like key things in it, like a formula. And you and I, before we're talking about surrender, surrender is a big aspect of it. How, this key ingredients that we can use and shoot our air into the universe and learn how to manifest what we need. So it's a compilation of a lot of things that I kind of weave from everything that I've learned. And it's a big book because in a huge glossary of terms because I'm kind of jumping around different things, but I try to focus on the most important things that I want someone on the path to look at. Maybe they've already been doing that, but given a lot of meditations and complementary meditations that I'm going to have on my website as well. So the freebie is actually one of the chapters, which is around the quantum master creator formula of this book, and it also comes with complementary meditation that you can do. So it's kind of quantum meditation where you can jump in and focus on manifesting something that day. It's kind of takes you on a journey of 20 minutes using binaural beats as well and guided meditation. So yes, I'm using a lot of tools that I like to use for myself, and but also give a lot of foundation. It's a lot of books out there, of course, but I feel like, we as goddesses, we kind of bring our stories, and my voice needed to be heard. It's something that a book in the making for many years, but I finally had very strong calling that I have to sit down and write, as you know. Like sometimes we just have to put our voices, and yeah, and the one piece I haven't mentioned is light language. So actually talk about channeling and why light language is important to activate these days as well. And that's something I'm very passionate about. I have my own school, Source Language Institute, and I help others to activate their divine right of expressing themselves in other languages other than the earthly ones that we know.
Beautiful. Your book is so needed. And I know there's a lot of books out there, but your book is not out there yet. And the world needs your book. I can feel that. I have clients that have gone through Kundalini awakening and they don't know what's happening to them. And they have a
Mhm.
very difficult time navigating through that. And, you know, people can fall into darkness, drugs, alcohol, suppressing that awakening that's happening because they don't know how to navigate through it. So I can feel that your book is going to be a beautiful map to help people navigate through their Kundalini awakening and they're stepping into their quantum leadership. So thank you for, you know, hearing the calling and, you know,
Thank
saying yes
you.
to the mission. For all of you that are listening, the links will be below for the free offerings. Definitely click on the link below, get this goddess's beautiful offerings and beautiful, divine goddess here.
Divine.
You're going to be offering an incredible light language and activation. Can you share with us just a little bit about what you're going to be offering?
Yes, I'm going to be offering a very powerful masterclass where we're going to cover the different ingredients of creating the reality that you want. We also going to have an experience through a guided meditation I'm going to offer with light language codes that we're going to be activating your field, learning how to ground this energy and jump into the quantum field to manifest what your heart desires to create.
Oh, I love that. That sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to that so much. What a beautiful offering of light language and manifestation. Some of my favorite things. The thing about, you know, organizing these events is that I get to attend and experience all of the bounty of offerings and beauty. And so, yeah, this is going to be so rich, potent, powerful. And I'm so looking forward to your meditation and your light language activation. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Is there any last and final words before we head out?
I'm just honored to be part of your beautiful collective. So thank you for being with us, for tuning in, for having your heart open, and for just staying curious.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being who you are and doing what you're doing on the planet. It's so important. I'm looking forward to your offerings and your book and all the magical things that you'll be doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And for
Schamet,
all of you
for
that are
you.
listening, so much love and so much quantum manifestation in your dreams and your aspirations. And we look forward to seeing you very soon.